Oyedele ACA, joining us from Osogbo, Osun State. And the first class we had, I think maybe 2 days ago or so, he was the one with us on that class. And this class as well is also, will also be the one to run us through it because the person that's supposed to take the class actually took time off. So, and in order not to waste much of our time, let me just confirm that the people that could not join through the Google Meet now have access to the YouTube link. So, Mr. Aziz, please check your DM. I've sent the YouTube link so that you can forward to the group. So, like I said, the other our classes are free. However, the only thing that we are going to just get from you guys is your seriousness, your commitment, and your consistency in class, and your decorum while the class is going on. And also respect for my tutors. We on no account will I condone any act of disrespect or rudeness towards my tutors. These are tutors that actually left their own for the sake of humanity. This that we are doing, we know a lot of people that do not do up to what we do and they get money from it. But we are doing this for the sake of humanity. And these tutors actually support and they are committed to it. So we have to just respect their time, their schedule. So it's very, very important. So this is 7 minutes behind the schedule. So I think we should start the class now. Mr. Aziz, you have the floor. Thank you guys. Enjoy your class. Can anyone confirm whether the YouTube link has gotten to the course?
No, it has not.
It hasn't.
Oh, it is there already.
The YouTube link, right? Is
Yes.
it there now?
Yes.
The link is there now.
The link is on the group.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I can see some persons that did not mute themselves. So I realize now that the tutor, accidentally, the network has actually turned him out from the group. So the only option we have now is for some persons to leave so that he can join. Let me ask him to be. Someone has to just leave the group and join on YouTube so that the tutor can join.
Okay.
I need one person to leave. I've asked him to be on standby and be joining so that once he joins.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello? Yeah. The YouTube link, has it been sent? Let me leave so I can move to the YouTube.
Yeah, you can do that. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
The challenge is that because you have thousands of persons that are also waiting to join. So there's every possibility that someone will leave and the system may still not able to join because a whole lot of persons are waiting. But let me do it this way. This is what I will just do. I will just make it a trusted so that anyone who will be joining, I have to accept the person. That's how we do it. So I need one more person to leave now. So by this way, I can accept hello?
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Okay, so guys, we can start now. So yeah, Mr. Aziz, you can continue now. I think I've waited. Can anyone mute? Can anyone unmute themselves? Let me see. Okay.
Hello.
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 Yeah,
Hello,
we can
sir.
hear you. Hello, we can hear you.
All right, good evening.
The class.
Hello. Hello.
I believe everyone can hear me now.
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the technical glitch.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Let it-
So welcome back. All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back to our PSAF discussions, as I've agreed to be calling it. Once again, I apologize for the technical issue. I want to implore every one of us to please try as much as possible to mute our mics if you are not talking to
Alaji
the
Isa,
group.
please mute.
Sorry.
If you are not talking to the group, please mute your mic so that. Okay, so tonight, in continuation of our discussions, actually I'm not supposed to be the one you'll be seeing every time. So somebody else was supposed to take tonight's class, but okay, we had to make an arrangement because the person was not available. Please, I want to confirm if my voice is clear enough and it's loud enough. I don't want us to have any audio issues like the last class.
It is clear enough. I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. Because I got a lot of scoldings in my DM after that last class. So people came and say, we didn't hear you for a very long time, this and that. So sorry about that. Okay. So tonight we'll be looking at chapters 11 and chapters 12, chapters 11 and 12 of the ICANN PSAP syllabus. And we are going to try as much as possible to be brief because our time is already far spent. Chapter 11 is focused on transparency and accountability in the public sector. So this is one very important aspect of public sector activities. You remember that last class, sorry, we were supposed to do a kind of review of what we did last class, but because of time, we won't be able to do that. So last class, I mentioned something about when we were differentiating, when we are comparing between private sector organizations and public sector organizations. Mr. Kabiru, I want to share screen.
You can share screen. Can you share?
Is
it allowing you?
I want to see the. Here's the option.
It's beside that video. It's beside the video. Just move your cursor.
Okay. No,
you've seen it here.
It's not allowing me. It's not allowing me.
It's not allowing. Okay, let me set it. I'm coming.
Okay, so when we're comparing between private sector and public sector organizations, we said that we talked about their budgets and their annual reports, how budgets of public sector organizations is usually in the public and everyone sees it, and that of private sector organizations are not, usually in the public. So one of the reasons why public sector organizations have their budgets in public is for the purpose of this transparency and accountability. So this is a very important concept, very important issue in public sector accounting and finance that usually generates a lot of conversations, a lot of arguments. Mr. Kabiru, how far is it? Okay.
Mr. Abdulaziz, can you try
what?
Try whether you can share your screen.
It's not giving me any chance. It's not allowing me. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, try now.
Yes, it's up now. Okay, good.
Sorry, I don't know if it is just me, but then it seems the voices are breaking in between.
So someone did not mute. Someone did not mute. So yeah, continue.
All right.
Yeah, share your screen now.
Okay. Can we say, okay?
It's coming up. It's coming up.
It's coming. Okay.
It's up now.
All right. So
you can zoom it out a bit for the benefit of those people joining on YouTube.
Okay. Like this?
Yes. Continue.
Okay, so when we talk about transparency and accountability in the public sector, accountability generally just refers to the obligation that is upon public sector officers. Okay, how do Samuel? You're raising a hand. Any issue? Are you still not getting
Yes,
the voice clear?
sir, like I said, I don't know if it is my network, but then your voice keeps breaking in between.
No, I don't think it's your network. So, Mr.
Okay.
Aziz, bit is your background somewhere.
My
So,
background is not noisy.
so if it is not noisy, that means it's network. Let's manage it. Please continue. Continue, please. Let's manage it.
Is it the same thing on your side, Mr. Kabiru?
Yeah, it's just breaking a little bit, a little bit, a
But
little bit.
my own side is not breaking up.
So let's continue.
Not breaking from my side. I
Very
guess
clear.
it's from the observer's side. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine, no.
It's
So
very
let's
okay.
continue. Let's continue. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so when we're talking about accountability in the public sector, we're talking about giving accounts. That is, there's an obligation on public sector officers and public sector entities to answer for the execution of the responsibilities that they have been given. You know, we said when we were defining public sector organizations, that public sector organizations are organizations that are owned by the people, they are owned by the public. But some few people are privileged to be selected to be running those organizations. So if they run those organizations, they have a responsibility to report to the people, to report back to the public that have given them this responsibility. So that responsibility that is on them to report back is what is simply known as accountability. All right. So all public sector officers and all public sector organizations have this responsibility. It is a requirement on them to give accountability, to give account of their stewardship of the organization that they run. Okay, this accountability now has two concepts inside of it. There's a concept of rendering of accounts, and then the one of holding to account, right? Which one is this again? What's happening, Mr. Kabiru? It's not scrolling.
What's not scrolling?
A screen that I'm sharing. Is it because I'm on Zoom?
Go to where you are sharing it and keep scrolling it. It is cool. You opened it using just be scrolling it to keep scrolling. You don't have to be on the Google Meet. Go to where you are sharing it and scroll it. It will scroll.
Okay.
Yeah, it's moving like that, so they can see that it's scrolling. Just continue. Except maybe you want, it's scrolling now. So except maybe you now want to observe the Google Meet and see whether someone is raising hand or you want to cannot do
Okay.
It's moving now.
Okay. All right. So there's rendering of accounts and then there's holding to account. Rendering of account is that aspect that we just mentioned earlier, where public sector organizations and officers have the responsibility to give reports back to the people. The holding to account is when the people or other government organizations now exercise power over a particular government organization or a particular government officer, government official to give account. All right. So there are situations where some public sector organizations or some officers refuse to give accounts, or they didn't give proper accounts, or the account they have given is questionable. So other organizations have power, or the people have power to question them, to sanction them, to bring judgment on them, to give proper accounts. That is what holding to accounts means. So the two of them, the two concepts make up what is known as accountability in public sector. So what it means is that in public sector, every organization, every individual have the responsibility to give accounts, and at the same time, they are accountable to some people. There are some people who have power, or some organizations who have power over them, so that can also bring them to account if they refuse to give proper accounts. That's what accountability is talking about. Then when we talk about transparency, we all know what that language means. You know, like the image you see at the beginning of the slide here. You can see that image, everything that's inside is you can clearly see it. So that's transparency. That something is clear that can be seen from another angle. But the transparency that we are concerned here, because we are talking about public sector accounting and finance, is the fiscal transparency. You know, when we say fiscal, we are referring to something financial. So fiscal transparency in public sector is when public officials and public organizations discharge their duties in such a way that their accountability responsibility is done through public reporting. You know, they report to the public clearly. How can I remove this thing? Okay. Sorry, please hold on now. I'm trying to minimize something that's blocking my screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. So fiscal transparency is also an aspect of accountability that requires that government officials have to carry out their financial responsibility with openness. So they don't have to hide anything in government activities. So government don't have to, especially in their financial activities, they don't have to hide things. It's only in the area of maybe security, national security, that they so claim. That's when we can say, okay, they're allowed to keep some secrets. But ordinarily in financial activities, government is not expected to keep secrets. They are not expected to hide information about the finances of government to the people. And that is why some government organizations, or some governments of even states and the federation publish their financial reports on the internet. They publish it on websites. There was a time that even the federal government, on a monthly basis, they publish the FAC reports, that is Federation Account Allocation Committee. That's organization where they share the allocation to every state every month. They publish the report every month so that you can see every local government, every state, this is what they get. So that is trying to be fiscally transparent. So they have to do all their financial responsibilities with openness, with trust, and their ethical standard, so that they don't hide anything from the public. So that is fiscal transparency. And this fiscal transparency and as well accountability, these issues are issues that are very important to especially international organizations, that do funding, that do grants, that award grants to government and government organizations. So they are interested in these organizations that they give grants to be open in the use of the resources that they have entrusted to them. All right, so are we together? So the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, issued some guidelines which they call the Code of Good Practices and Fiscal Transparency. That is, they're like setting a standard that all organizations that want to be seen as being transparent, as being fiscally transparent, should follow these guidelines. They should have these codes. They should follow these codes. All right. So those codes includes one, the clarity of rules and responsibility. So the IMF says all organizations should have their roles clearly stated. All government officials, public sector officials should have their roles clearly stated. So the accountant general must know his role, different from that of the Minister for Finance. The Auditor General must know his role, different from that of the Senate President. So that roles, organizations will not be overlapping roles. There will not be conflicts. And then we will know that if there is one responsibility that is lacking, we will clearly know which organization is supposed to be responsible for it that did not do that responsibility. So for the purpose of fiscal transparency, all roles should be clear, responsibilities should be clear, all organizations should know their own roles and responsibilities, and all officers should know their duties and responsibilities. Another code of the IMF for fiscal transparency is the open budget process. This one is saying that, in preparing your budget, in implementing that budget, in giving reports about the budget, that is evaluating the budget, monitoring the budget, everything should be done publicly. Everything should be done in the open. So that is why you see that when the president wants to present the budget of the country to the legislature, they do it live on TV. So everybody will see that, okay, the president is presenting the budget. This is the amount that is in the budget. This is the quantity of the amount that is meant for capital projects. This is what is meant for overhead expenditures, and so on and so forth. So the budget process, and then when the legislature too starts looking into the budget, they make it public. They do it openly in their session, and then they send it to the committee. And the committee also will do what they call public hearing. So you can see it's a public hearing where people are invited, stakeholders are invited to come, make inputs, look at the budgets together. You call the organizations that are responsible for each and every aspect of the budget to come and say, okay, this amount that you say you want to spend in the coming year, how do you intend to spend it? Why do you want to spend so much? And so on. So the budget process is supposed to be open according to the IMF code. And even the implementation of the budget, the reporting of the budget should be made open. So another thing that is important in transparency, fiscal transparency, according to the IMF, is the public availability of information. This one is just saying that all financial information of government should not be hidden. Anyone that needs it should be able to access it. So this one that we always have issue of people arguing over the media and saying this is the amount that the senators are earning, this is the amount that the governors are earning. This information is supposed to be in public, and anybody can just go to a certain source and then get those information. So the information should not be hidden. It should be available to the public. And even concerning debts of government, not only about remuneration of public officers, government debts, government liabilities and other liabilities and so on should be made public. Another one is the assurances of integrity. So this one is referring to the fact that the data that comes out from government organizations should be of quality in nature. The data that government officials, government organizations produce should be reliable. All right. So that we can know that what they are sharing to the public is genuine, and the public can reliably and confidently use those information for any analysis and scrutiny that they want to do. Okay. Now, we have just talked about the IMF code for fiscal transparency. All right. So it's not only the IMF that talk about fiscal transparency or accountability in the public sector. I hope no one is raising hand because I wasn't looking at the screen. So if there's anybody that raised hand,
there's no one raising hand. We have to manage the time. so right. Maybe like intermittently, maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes after, you can then address people, or at times maybe intermittently you can switch to the Google Meet and see whether anybody is raising hand. But let's suspend questions after class. Right.
All right. Okay, so it's not only the IMF that is concerned about accountability or transparency in the public sector. So there is this organization that is known as Transparency International. Transparency International is an international organization that is formed by different civil society minded people and countries. So they are present in over 100 countries. And what they do is to assess those countries based on some parameters that they have set. All right. So those parameters that they set, they use it to assess these countries in order to see how transparent they have been in their operation, in their government, in their governance, so to say. So how transparent have they been? How accountable have they been to the public? And this brings further to now show how the level of integrity, the level of credibility, and the level of corruption that happens in those countries. So the countries that they are present in are the countries that they assess their operation, they assess their system of governance. All right. Okay. So this Transparency International, they have a few benefits, and one of it is that it is in this organization that they have criminalized bribing. Excuse me. They have criminalized bribing of foreign officials. Also, apart from that, it is this organization that led to the creation of the UN Convention Against Corruption, because it's the leading organization in the area of corruption, campaign against corruption in the whole world. Another benefit that comes from this Transparency International is that they agreed that corruption should be made harder to hide in governance in their countries. So what these organizations do is that parameter, those criteria that they have, they use it to now rate every country that they want to rate, and they score this country based on each. It's just like they have just like a questionnaire, and then they say, okay, maybe for example, they say how available is their information about their finances and so on. So they just score those countries based on these parameters that they have, and then they add all this together and use it to rate those countries and see which one is the less corrupt, which one is the most corrupt. Okay, so sorry. Just let me take a few seconds to plug my computer.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So after talking about the Transparency International, there's also another organization that is also interested in public transparency and accountability. And this is the Open Budget Index. So these ones, their major area of interest is not just financial transparency generally, but more focused on the budget aspect of government organizations, governments all over the world. And what they do is that the Open Budget Center is an independent organization, just like the Transparency International as well. What they do is that they survey the budget process of each country where they are present and score those countries on each criteria, just like the Transparency International also do the same procedure, but now they are focused majorly on budgets, on the area of budget for those countries where they operate. So they have some criteria, some parameters which they use to score each country, majorly in their budget process. So how open is their budget? How effective is their implementation? How effective is the participation of different stakeholders and all those things? That's what they assess. All right. So the index has three components of a budget accountability system. One is the public availability of budget information, opportunities for the public to participate in the budget process, and then the role and effectiveness of oversight institutions. So the public information about the budget is expected to be available to the public. So they assess each country based on this. Is how available is their budget information to the public? Do they publish it? Do they hide it? How often do they publish it? And so on. Also, the opportunity for the public to participate in the process, they assess that one as well. Is it that the public just look from far and see them doing budget and then they call the figure to the people, or the people also participate actively in it? So one of the ways that the people can participate in budget process is the fact that the budget has to go to the legislature, and we know that the legislature is the representative of the people. So it is the people, it's the public that is there, but those people that are there are representative of each constituency. So if there is anything in the budget and you don't want, it is in your concern, you call your representative and say, come, this thing in the budget, help us to change it. All right. So apart from that, like I said earlier, the legislature also organize public hearing for budget assessment. So the public are expected to go there, different organizations, different stakeholder organizations, attend this public hearing to give their opinion, to give their input into the budget process. So those are one of the criteria that the Open Budget Index assess. Then another one is the role of formal oversight institutions. When we say formal oversight institutions, we are talking about institutions that have the responsibility to do what we call monitoring and evaluation of the budget implementation. And here we are referring to the legislature and or the Supreme Audit Institution. When we are saying the Supreme Audit Institution, we are referring to the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. All right. So what this one is just referring to is that budget process or budget implementation in this country, in any country, is expected to be overseen by the legislature, one, and also by the Supreme Audit Institution in that country. And in the case of our own country here, is the Office of the Auditor General. The Supreme Audit Institution is referring to the number one audit institution, which is the Auditor General for the Federation in our own case. Okay. Now, after talking about all these different organizations, what are the conditions or measures that should be in place for us to, to promote public accountability? For public accountability, for us to be able to say that there is accountability in the public sector, what are the things that should be in place? All right. So, rendering of accounts, like we have said earlier when we were defining accountability, there needs to be rendering of accounts. So if we have a public sector that doesn't give annual reports, that doesn't publish their financial statements, or maybe they don't even prepare it, so how can we say there is accountability? What is accountability if you are not giving the account? So rendering of accounts is very important. Investigative reporting and media attention. So media should be allowed to do investigative reporting, to be able to chook their eyes into wherever they want to chook it, and give any information or any facts that they have found. They should be able to give it the publicity as wide as possible. Whistleblowing should be in place for us, for there to be accountability. The proper accountability should be in place. Whistleblowing should be in place. If there is no whistleblowing policy, then what it means is that even if people are doing wrong, nobody is going to talk. And if nobody talks, that means the people will not know. So whistleblowing should be in place, a whistleblowing policy. I think we have a whistleblowing policy in Nigeria too, but I don't know how effective it is anymore. I think when it started around that kind, was it 2014 or 2015 or thereabouts, when that policy was very hot. People were whistleblowing. I think there's a certain percentage that goes to the whistleblower from whatever is recovered, whatever resources is recovered from what the person reports. So if you see somebody that is stealing in your workplace and you know that this person is doing big time fraud, you just estimate that this person as the fraud that this person would have done would have been up to like 2 billion. Maybe it's 10%, 3%. I don't know. Sorry, I can't remember the figure precisely. But there's a certain percentage that goes to that person that report is, if the report is actually investigated and is found to be genuine, and it is established that the person also did not participate in it. So not that you now join them to do the fraud, you do the fraud together and then you go and whistleblow later, so that you will now still get extra commission. So whistleblowing policy should be in place. There should be encouragement for due process. Due process, generally, when we're talking due process, means that things should be done in a proper way, should be done according to normal internal control, should be done according to rules and regulations. But especially when we talk due process in the public sector, most of the time they are referring to tendering process. The tendering process, how contracts are awarded, how supply procurements are being done. Yes, how procurements are done mostly. And then anti-graft agencies need to be strengthened. EFCC, ICPC, they need to be given powers. The Code of Conduct Bureau, they need to be given more powers to operate independently. Public enlightenment. The public need to be enlightened about corruption, about how to avoid corruption. Accountable leadership. The leadership needs to be accountable. The leadership itself of the country, of the government, needs to be accountable for there to be accountability. Because if the leader itself is not accountable, then all the subordinates as well, they will be doing whatever they like. To just be a free for all to do whatever you like. Then openness in governance. So the government should be open with every detail of the information. Not as much as what the office they are occupying is not actually their private company. It is a public company that they have been appointed. It's a public institution they have been appointed to oversee. So why should you hide what is happening there? What something that's already in the first place belongs to the public. So there should be openness. Review of current method of asset declaration. So we have an asset declaration in place. I think that one will be discussed. There another lecturer in another chapter when we are talking about ethics in ethical standards in the public sector. There is a law that requires public officials to declare their assets. So this point here is talking about that the fact that that process, that method should be reviewed to be more effective. So if there is more effective asset declaration method in place, then there will be more accountability on the part of public officers. And then the immunity clause should be deleted. Well, some people will argue this one, that immunity clause is still important, it should not be removed. Some people say it should be removed for everybody, but the thing is, the immunity clause should be reviewed. There are some officers who or it should be removed the way it is being implemented, even if it is there for public officers, especially. I think presently it's only the president and governor that enjoy it. I'm not sure of the Senate president. I think the Senate president too and the Speaker of the House of Representatives enjoy it too. And what it means, for those who may not know, what the immunity clause means is that as at the time when that person is occupying that office, they cannot be sued. They cannot be charged to court for any case. So even if you see the person that is shooting somebody like this, you cannot sue the person until the person leaves the office. If you see the person steal money like this, say the person steal money, he rob, you cannot sue the person because the person has immunity granted by the Constitution. So that's what immunity clause means. So whatever that person does when he's in the, so after leaving office, in fact that day as he's handing over at the park, maybe Eagle Square or in the stadium of that state, there is handing over power to the next, to his successor like this, you can surround him and arrest him and say you sue him to court. But as at the time he's in office, you cannot sue them, you cannot arrest them until they leave that office. So that's what immunity goes. So some advocates of public accountability and transparency have said, see, this thing makes public officials who enjoy it to misbehave. They do anyhow when they are in office because they know that you can't sue them. So this thing should be removed. While some have said, why we shouldn't remove it, we should at least review it so that it will reduce, so that for certain matters you can sue them, for certain matters you can allow them. Because one of the reasons why some people support it is the fact that those people will not be able to concentrate in office if they continue to sue them. Imagine the governor, imagine if immunity is not there for the president. How many cases do you think this president will have in court now? You'll be going to court every week or every day to attend to court. So that's what that point is talking about. So let's move forward. We also have factors. I think this is going to be the last on this chapter, the last thing we talk about in this chapter, the factors that militate against effective public accountability. So what are the factors that affect the governance system from being accountable properly, effectively accountable to the public? Now, our low ranking in the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International is one important aspect of that. So that document that the Transparency International produces after they have done their ratings is what is known as the Corruption Perception Index. The name is Corruption Perception Index. So when they have done their ratings, they rank every country, and then you see how corrupt your country is, you see how clean your country is. So we are saying that our low ranking in Nigeria in that Corruption Perception Index is a factor that is affecting our accountability in the public sector. Also, we rate very low on the Open Budget Index. Our budget system is just coming up to being, to what we can say is transparent. There are some organizations also, I think through the World Bank, that are trying to ensure that Nigerian government and government organizations make our budget system to be open. In fact, they have to make it as attractive as possible by attaching grants to it. So if you have a pen there, you can Google, after the class, you can Google SFTAS, SFTAS. So that organization monitors state governments and even federal government. They monitor their budget process, they monitor their annual reporting system with timelines. So they rate every of these organizations, and those organizations that meet up criteria properly, they give them grants. That's how far they have gone to make transparency and accountability in the public sector to be attractive to government officers and government organizations. So they will say that, okay, there's a timeline for when you're supposed to finish preparation of your budget. There's a timeline for when you're supposed to send the budget to the legislature, when the legislature is supposed to approve it, and then when the executive is supposed to assent it. the time you're supposed to publish that budget. There's a timeline from when you should publish your annual report, that is your financial statement, audited financial statements. So if you meet up all these timelines, there's an amount of money in billions of naira that they give to state governments for them to, to make it more attractive to them as a prize, yes, as a prize for doing proper accountability in their governance. Okay. There are also existence of special accounts. There are special accounts, special funds that operate in our own government system here in Nigeria that is affecting accountability. They say this one, some accounts are special, some accounts are secret, they are not made public. Even sometimes legislators may not be allowed to access details of such accounts. Or sometimes it will be some classified number of government officials that will be allowed to access some of those accounts and funds. These are areas where they are shooting accountability in the leg. Okay. Breach of Fiscal Responsibility Act. Fiscal responsibility is another topic that you discuss separately also. It's just about how government officials are expected to be responsible when they are in office, the way they are supposed to behave, the way they are supposed to, how well they are supposed to manage government resources. So there's a law for it known as Fiscal Responsibility Act. So that act states, give guidelines to government officials, but a lot of government officials don't follow these laws, and they are not, unfortunately, they are not being penalized, and this is affecting our level of accountability in the country. Because if people know that they will not be penalized if they don't do something, or if they do something which is wrong, they will continue to do it, or they will continue not to do it, as long as they know that they will not be penalized. We also have a shady procurement process. Oh God, our procurement process, let's not just talk much. And this is affecting accountability as well, because if you make procurement, if you award contracts, the process is not, you didn't follow due process in awarding the contract. You didn't do all the tendering process. You didn't get the contract is not publicized. You didn't get tender from different people. You just award contracts to your own cronies. That's a shady procurement process, and it's affecting what we can call accountability in our country. So that is summarily what transparency and accountability in the public sector is referring to. Okay, so I believe maybe we may want to take a few questions on this one, if there are any, before we quickly move to financial responsibility of public sector officers. Any question? Okay. If our questions are not ready yet, okay, maybe we should move to the next topic and run one down. Okay, Ainde Mubarak, let's hear you.
Okay, good evening. Please, this existence of those special government funds under the factors that is affecting accountability. Is there need for us to take note of those percentage, like to take note of them, or what's your own opinion? Like all those special funds, like 10% for cocoa levy, all those kind of percentage that they are using.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I didn't give example of those special funds.
No, I'm just saying it's inside the park actually. So I'm just saying.
Okay. Okay, that you want to take it as to give it as an example.
Yeah,
When you are when you are answering. Of course, you can. Of course, you can. Yeah. Who else is raising hand? Mr. Mubarak, I think you can drop your hand now. Okay, so let's move to financial responsibility of public sector officers. Okay. All right. So here we'll be looking at different officers in the public sector, different officers in the public sectors who have responsibilities in the area of accounting and finance in the public sector. All right. Now, these officers, we need to take note that not all of them are actually working in accounts. They are not actually working on that. Not all of them are actually working on accounts, but we only look at the responsibility that they have that relates to accounts and finance in the public sector. So that will be our focus. Okay, so now the first person we'll be looking at is the #1 accountant in the country, who is the accountant general. All right, so the accountant general, who is that now? The accountant general is the chief accounting officer for receipts and payments education.
You have no shame. You call this a house?
Sunday, Fabuya.
Issues with me going
Sunday, please.
Who is disturbing us? So
Sunday, please mute your mic.
continue.
Okay, we are good to go. So the accountant general, like we said, is the chief accounting officer for receipts and payments of the federation. So he's the chairman of collecting and payments of money for the federal government. Okay, for the federation, say. So he's the chairman of the collecting and payment of the federation. He's the #1 accountant, like I said earlier, #1 accountant in the country. So what are his responsibilities? The accountant general, one, had the responsibility of supervision of all accounts of ministries, departments, agencies.
We can't see your screen again now.
Really? I thought I'm still sharing.
Yeah.
Sharing.
You are still sharing.
You can see it. You can see it. You can see it.
So the accountant general supervises all accounts of ministries, departments, agencies, extraministerial agencies, and so on. All the accounts of governments, of the federal government, in all the government agencies, government organizations, is supervised by the accountant general. All right. The accountant general sits in his office, but all these agencies that we mentioned, Ministry of Agri, Ministry of Works, Transportation, whatever, have his representatives there. So his representatives that are there report to him. So he's the one supervising all those accounts of all the government agencies. Preparation of financial statements of the nation is also one of the major responsibility of the accountant general for the federation. So accountant general of the federation have the duty, have the responsibility every year to prepare the financial statement, the final accounts of government, and present it to the auditor general to now audit it, and then they now publish it. Okay. Federal government investment. The management of federal government investment is also responsibility of the accountant general as well. The operation of accounts of the different funds. You know, in the last class we talked about funds, the different funds that the government keep, all these general fund, the special funds, and all of them. It is the accountant general that manages those funds. He's one that operating those funds, one that keep records of those funds, that updates the movements in those funds. Those are his responsibility. The account of the federation, that is the one where they share the money for all the states and local government and the federal government that they share in Abuja every month. The accountant general is a key figure in that committee, even though he's not the chairman, but he's a key figure in that committee where money is being shared to all the different states and local governments. Accounting policy of the government, how government operates their accounts, the policies that they use in keeping their accounting records. The formulation of those policies is also the responsibility of the accountant general. So you can see that he's the number one accountant. When anything that talk about accounts of federal government, it is the accountant general that is the chairman on it. Okay. Public debt and loan is the one that services, because we said earlier there is one that is supervising. I mean, there is one that is the chief accounting officer of all payments and receipts. So anything that has to do with government, federal government paying money, it's the accountant general that will eventually do it. Whether you do it secretly somewhere, it will eventually land on the accountant general to now make the payments. All right. So when it now comes to servicing debt as well, it's part of making payments. So it's the accountant general that does the servicing of those debts, paying back federal government debts to wherever they have taken the loan. And in doing all this, because the accountant general cannot do it alone, he has staff everywhere in every organization. Part of his responsibility is to train those staffs to be able to perform their duties diligently, and so many other functions that we can ascribe to the accountant general that we can all read up about. And then we'll move quickly to the next one, the next man, the Auditor General for the Federation. The Auditor General for the Federation is one very important figure in public sector accounting and finance. Because this office, unlike that of the Accountant General of the Federation, the office of the Auditor General of the Federation has its roles, responsibilities, its powers enshrined in the Constitution of the land. The Constitution recognizes this office, the office of the Auditor General for the Federation. And it is the office that have the responsibility to audit the financial reports of all accounts, to audit all public accounts of the Federation. So he has the power to examine all accounts. So, like we'll mention later, even though there are some accounts he does not audit, he still has power to examine them. Even though he's not auditing them formally as an auditor, he has power to examine them. Him and his representatives. Like the Accountant General, he also have representatives. He has staff everywhere that goes around, that visits different organizations. So the functions of the Auditor General includes financial audit. They do value for money audit. They do financial control audit. Now, what is financial audit? It's the regular audit, that the most common one that we know, where they audit financial statements, they audit the accounts to determine whether this account it shows a true and fair view of the organization. All right. Now, when it comes to value for money audit is looking at the organization, or is looking at projects that are executed, if they actually justify the amount of resources that government has committed into those projects. So if you say that we are building a school or we are building a bridge for 10 billion, value for money audit will now assess that project and see that, okay, does this project, what is on ground here, is it actually up to 10 billion? Or maybe a project that is still a work in progress. Okay, you now go and the Auditor General or his representatives will look at this project, assess it, that okay, so far government has spent 5 billion on this project. They have released 5 billion to the contractors of this project. What they have done now, what is on ground now, is it up to 5 billion? Does it justify 5 billion? So that's what the value for money audit looks like. And then the financial control audit is just an audit of procedures. We are auditing the procedure of the organization, how they do their financial operation in that organization. How do they record their financial transactions? How do they analyze those transactions? How do they eventually arrive at the financial reports that they produce? So that is the financial control audit. So we are auditing their procedures for doing things, so especially financial operations. Okay. Another function that the Auditor General performs is the audit of the financial statement that is produced by the Accountant General. So when the Accountant General produces a financial statement at the end of every year, they hand it over to the Auditor General to assess it, to audit it, to look at it and see if it has been properly produced in accordance with all the rules, regulations, and standards, and then if it actually represents the true and fair view of the financial position of government. They also do revenue audits. This one, very important. Different organizations that collect revenue for federal government, the Auditor General and his representatives have the power, have the responsibility to use all the necessary methods to assess the operations of this organization and determine whether revenues have been properly collected and they have been properly accounted for. Okay. So there will be more talk about Auditor General and then audits in the public sector in another chapter. Okay. So the next is the accounting officers. All right. So I want us to take note of these accounting officers very well. In this context, accounting officer is not talking about somebody that prepares accounts. Let me repeat that. In this context of public officers, accounting officers here, let me say accounting officers, is not referring to somebody that prepares accounts. Accounting officer here is referring to somebody that have responsibility to give accounts, to render accounts, somebody that is overseeing the affairs of the organization. That is what accounting officers refers to in the public sector of Nigeria. So in the public sector, accounting officers refers to heads of ministries and agencies. They are administrative heads of ministries and agencies is what accounting officers refer to, not somebody that prepares accounts. So it is possible that the accounting officer is not an accounts person, is not somebody that studies accounting. So the accounting here is not referring to debit and credit accounting, it's referring to rendering of accounts. It's referring to holding to account. That if anything happens in that organization, who would they hold to account? Accounting officer. If at the end of the operation of that organization, who will render accounts? Accounting officer. Okay, so render account here is not referring to only monies, it's referring to the general affairs of that organization. So those are accounting. So, and examples of those accounting officers are permanent secretaries in the case of ministries. So depending on the nature of that organization, they give them different names. So if it's a ministry, you say Ministry of Works, Ministry of Environment, it is permanent secretary. You hear permanent secretary, Ministry of Environment. That man is the overall overseer of that ministry, of the administration of that ministry. Okay, it's the one that will be held responsible for anything in that ministry. Okay, in the case of some other organizations that are not ministries, maybe like like our higher institutions, the tertiary institutions, the vice chancellor is the accounting officer there. If it's a polytechnic, it's a rector or provost in a college of education. So in some other organizations, depending on the acts that establish them, it may be the general manager, it may be the executive secretary, and so on. So that person is the accounting officer in that organization. Now, these people, you can now see that it is possible that this person is not somebody that study accounting. So it's not the accounting officer we are talking about here. It's not the accounting of debit and credit. It's the accounting of giving reports. It's the running of affairs that we're talking about here. But this person, in running affairs, since we say that he's the one that has the responsibility of the overall affairs of that organization, it means that the person will also have responsibility that relates to accounting and finance. So it is their responsibilities that relate to accounting and finance that we now want to look at here. Because the title of the topic, if you remember, is what? Financial responsibilities of public sector officers. So the financial responsibilities that the accounting officers have, permanent secretaries, general managers, CBN governor is the accounting officer for CBN. Okay, so those responsibilities that they have is what we want to look at here. One, they are responsible for the safeguard of public fund that is in their organization. So all public fund in their organization that they are heading, the responsibility of the safeguard of those funds is on the accounting officer. Okay. They ensure proper budgetary and accounting system are established. So even if it's not the one that will establish it because it doesn't know anything about accounts or budget, probably. So it will ensure that that system is in place by making sure that the people that have responsibility to do that actually do it. Okay. Safeguard of public assets under their organization is also their responsibilities. Aside that, they ensure that all public monies collected by the organization is properly accounted for. All public money that is spent is also properly accounted for. That's also their responsibility. You can see that all of these responsibilities doesn't mean that they are going to do it directly because they may not know how to do account. Some of them may not even know how to record the money that are collected, but they have to ensure that it is done. Okay. Another responsibility is to ensure that there is prudence of public fund, that under the organization money is not just being spent anyhow. Okay. Then we now have sub-accounting officer. Now this sub-accounting officer is now the person, is the head of the accounting operation of the organization. They are usually the head of the accounting department in those organizations, maybe the director of finance, or maybe the bossa, or maybe the executive director of finance, depending on the nomenclature that the person is given in that organization, depending on the nature of the organization. So, but that what it means is that that person is the head of the finance and account department, and they are known as sub-accounting officer. Now, their responsibility is to ensure that a proper accounting system is in place. So, as the permanent secretary, who is the accounting officer, is trying to ensure that there is proper accountability, proper accounting system in his ministry. What we do is that he will call the director of finance and say, make sure that you account for all the money that we have collected and we have spent properly. So it is now the responsibility of sub-accounting officer, who, in the case of a ministry, will now be the director of finance, to ensure that those monies are properly accounted for. They ensure that there's provision for safekeeping of public funds, ensure that there is supervision for receipts of public revenue. So in that organization, when they receive revenue, the sub-accounting officer must ensure that those revenues are properly accounted for. You supervise the collection. Expenditure as well, you supervise making of payments in that organization. So then we now have another officer known as the revenue collector. Now these ones, they are in charge of recording or giving proper record of revenues. So you can now see that the those responsibilities that belong to the accounting officer is now being split into people that will now actually do the roles. So the accounting officer is just like a supervisor. It's like an overseer. It's overseeing everything. His responsibility, you remember we said he has the responsibility to supervise the collection of revenue and then supervise the expenditure. Now, this is the person that will now actually collect the revenue and record the collection of the revenue. It's one that will account properly for revenues that are generated by that organization. That is the responsibility of the revenues collector. And then we have another officer known as the interest holder. The interest holder is just like a cashier, where that keeps records of monies that are spent, little expenses that are spent in that organization. That's the interest holder. And then lastly, we have this very important officer as well, known as the officer controlling expenditure. The officer controlling expenditure is one major officer in the public sector accounting and finance, because what this officer does is to monitor expenditure of the organization against the budget of the organization. That is ensuring that that organization does not fall into the trap of what is known as extra budgetary spending. Extra budgetary spending is when you spend money outside the budget, which is a very serious crime. By the time the tutor that will take you budgeting gets there, you will discuss about it. How spending outside of the budget is a very serious crime. So for the organization not to fall into that pit, that is why we have this officer controlling expenditure. And what does it do? By the time an expenditure is about to be implemented, the proper approvals have been gotten, all the necessary arrangements have been done, and then the organization, before making payments, it will now pass through the officer controlling expenditure. The officer controlling expenditure will now do what? Will check for the expenditure against the budget of the organization and see if that organization still have provision for that expenditure. Let's say, for example, the organization budgets 200 million for stationaries in 2025. And then every time they want to buy stationaries, the voucher will have to pass through this officer controlling expenditure to check if they still have provision for stationaries. And so maybe they have spent up to 185 million on stationery, and this is July. And then they are preparing another voucher to say they want to buy stationaries of 25 million. Meanwhile, according to the budget, they only have 15 million naira left that they can spend on stationery. So the officer controlling expenditure will not say, oh, no, come back. This one is not possible. Our budget for this year is 200 million for stationaries. We have spent 185 million. We can only spend 15 million. This 25 million cannot fly. That is the role that the officer controlling expenditure does. So it supervises government expenditure to ensure that no payment is made without proper authority. And he also ensures that all proper approvals have been gotten before expenditure can be made, so that somebody will not just bring one dummy voucher and bring it and say they are making payments for an expenditure that approval has not been gotten for. They ensure that funds are available under the appropriate heads and subheads before payment is made. So sometimes politicians can even get approval for an expenditure that is not budgeted for. So the organization does not have budget for, let's say, international travels, for example. And then one way or the other, they will get approval from the president for them to travel abroad for a particular seminar or conference. And then it is now the responsibility of the officer controlling expenditure to say, no, come. In our organization, we don't have budget for international travel this year. So there's no way we can spend money for international travel. So that's the work of officer controlling expenditure. There's effectively, they monitor the expenditure of governments. So that is the much we can take. So they also maintain the vote book. So the vote book is their own record. It's the record of the officer controlling expenditure that shows every item that was budgeted in the year and against the amount that has been spent so far, and showing the balance left on each subhead expenditure, so that anytime another expenditure want to fly, they will go and check what is the balance on vehicle maintenance. Can they accommodate this one? What is the balance on repairs of vehicle before the expenditure can be allowed to fly? So that's the much we will be able to take on that topic as well. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions so far. I hope we are able to.
Let's clap for our tutor. That's a very impressive presentation, and the fact that you just had to stand in for another tutor. He was actually not preparing for this, says how committed and consistent they are with this. Thank you very much, sir, for this. May Allah reward you and then increase your knowledge and understanding. This is a very the good thing is that I also learned a lot from the lecture. I have to be in lectures because of the platform we are using, and I learned a lot from it too. So I think we are good with our time management tonight. So let's see if you can accommodate a couple of questions from our students. If you have any question, raise your hand. Let me coordinate it. Oh, I think this is a well understood lecture. People did not really have questions. Okay, Said, read one.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Mine is just observation.
Yes, introduce yourself and where you are joining from.
Sorry, I can't hear that, please.
Introduce yourself and where you are joining from.
Okay, my name is Said Ridwan. I'm from Lagos.
Joining from Lagos. Okay, your question.
Okay, mine is not a question per se, but just two observations. The first one has to do with the whistleblowing percentage. Just for the benefit of knowledge sharing, it's said to be within the range of 2.5% and 5% of whatever has been recovered after due and standard process based on what the provision is. That's the first thing. Then the second thing has to do with the lecture notes. I just want to confirm if we'll be getting this lecture note for this second lecture, and I want to also be double sure that the first lecture too that was held last time, that we shared the copy of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, about the presentation, it's even funny. Yeah, actually, I didn't even read the presentation, the slides myself. Somebody just helped me process it with one AI tool like that. I think Gamma or something like that. The person just used the AI tool to help me, just do something about the presentation. In the first class, I didn't do a slide like this, so I don't think that there will be anything to share for that. For this one, I don't know if I should share it, because the next class, if I don't, I told the person that is going to teach me how to do it anyway. But
please, I think the best thing is to get the knowledge on how to do it.
I told him that he's going to teach me how to do it. I can do it,
because it's actually very simple and very, very simple and straightforward presentation. There is no story, there's no noise in the presentation. It's not wordy. So it's very, very simple.
Yes, I had the notes before, so I just gave him the notes to help me. So you just structure it into their presentation. So if I make, but my fear is if I share this one, subsequent classes, if I'm unable to share it, I don't know. Hope it will not be an issue.
Yeah, I don't think it should be.
The other tutors, they are not sharing. Hey, I don't want it to become unusual, so that this one will not now become a standard.
No. So I don't think it will become an issue since the lecture is actually called out from the study pack, right? So study packs is the major material that is our first material that we should use. So any other one is just like this thing, and even if you share this, there is a caveat, there is a disclaimer clause to say anybody, it depends on how it goes. So if maybe in the next lecture you are not able to share something like this, maybe it's another format, nobody will come and say we want this format. You say, my dear, sorry, it's not constant, it's not certain, but it's not bad if you share it to them.
All right.
Any other?
I think there was one other person that raised the hand before, maybe Rebecca something. One Rebecca raised the hand before.
That is a question.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to say that this is an very, very clear explanatory note given to us. I want to applaud the lecturer and the management team too. My question goes this way. Sometimes, I think the previous government, so because of information, I have to conceal, but this happened to former Accountant General of this country, whereby there was an accusation, alleged this thing that there was some money looted by him for the sake of, and now you made mention of the accounting officers. I'm just an accounting officer and the officer control expenditure in Accountant General of Federation Office. The question is, were they not supposed to make an alert that, Oga, what we're about to do now is against one, the policy, two, is going beyond what we had budgeted for. This money was meant for this particular fund. Can you hear me, lecturer?
Yes, I can hear you.
And two, another question is that in the course of being defensive about what the Accountant General per se wants to carry it out by looting the money, directly saying, do the money in every government, there must be a record to show that certain things were done. What measure have they put in place to ensure that the person trying to protect his own what do you call it? His own image, maybe the accounting officer or the officer control expenditure is not being threatened or sacked? Can you understand that? That is my second question.
Okay.
The last one is on Transparency International, which is over 100 countries. Now, if, for instance, one of the countries was rated as most corrupt, whatever, and in the long run, what measure would the country per se put in place to ensure that its record is cleared of such alleging whatever? That's my second question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca, for the compliments. Okay. Now, let me take it from the last question.
Yes, sir.
All right. If a country is rated high, rated low, the corruption perception, and to change their situation, that is, if they are in, that the corruption perception index is not going to be enforced by any organization on any country. It just public. It's just for information that, okay, this is how this country stands. Now, if any country is not satisfied with their condition, with them being as the most corrupt and they want to change it, we mentioned one thing about, there was a subtopic where we mentioned the measures that need to be put in place to ensure public accountability. So those things are what the country we have to go and do. They have to go and make their budget process to be open. They have to put a whistleblowing policy in place. They have to ensure that there is proper rendering of accounts and all those things that we mentioned there, openness in governance and all those things. That's what they will not they go and do. By the time they do all those things effectively, the next time Transparency International is assessing those countries, their rating will definitely, because what Transparency International do is what they just do is to look at what you are doing and put it down, rate it. So if they do all those things, those measures, they put it in place, their rating is going to change. So that's what they need to do. About the former accountant general. Now, let me first correct something. Those officers that we mentioned, they are not in the office of the accountant general. They are accounting officer and this and that. They are not in the office of accountant general. They are in every government organization. Every government organization have accounting officer. They have sub-accounting officer. They have officer controlling expenditure. All right. Now, in the case of the accountant general, you need to know that the accountant general himself is the accounting officer of the office of the accountant general. Is the overall, is the overseer of that office, office of the accountant general of the federation. The accountant general is the accounting officer there. So he has powers. He has, let me say, let me not use the overall, but he has overall power in that organization. Meanwhile, if he's doing something that is ethically wrong, he has officers who can check him, but these officers, remember, they are below him in rank. And the public sector has a way it operates where you just have to obey whoever is above you in rank. And then if you are not satisfied, that is why whistleblowing policy is in place. So those officers too could have, blown the whistle and say, accountant general is doing this, if they know they have the mind to be able to do it.
Okay.
But I don't want to go too deep into that. I think when the tutor that will take the I think maybe chapter 3 or chapter 4 where the syllabus talk about ethical issues in public sector, you will discuss more on issues like that and how to handle ethical situations when officers are in ethical corners like that. But in the public sector, there's actually a general rule. There's one rule that they use in public sector. It's not written down, but the rule is that if your superior officer is asking you to do something that is ethically wrong and you cannot do it, then the option you have is to resign. To leave the job. If you don't want to leave the job, you do it. Or you blow whistle when whistle blowing is now in operation. So that's how much I can.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think with that we can draw the curtain. Thank you very much, guys. It is a very composed class. I enjoy our composure and our steez. It actually well maintained. And few nuggets or take home. Please, guys, if you are not able to join maybe any of the groups, any of the classes group, please reach out to the tutors that are designated for those groups so that they can add you. And stop reaching out to my regular WhatsApp line. You people have killed that WhatsApp line. WhatsApp blocked it permanently, so I can't access any message on it. This is me talking, Kabiru Yusuf. So that line, don't bother with us. You can reach out on Telegram for that same line. I will attend to it. And then issues regarding registration. Some persons, perhaps maybe they are starting new and they have not done registration. Please go and do your registration and claim your exemptions so that time will not catch up with you and you will meet up with time. And then every other necessary information will be passed across to you as time goes on. So the timetable is not final. It's subject to updates, and we will be communicating the updates with you as necessary. Let's call it a night. Good night, everyone. Thank you for attending. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Your time.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Mr.
you, Mr.
Abdulaziz, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.